From One Rotary Center in Evanston, Illinois, this is a special collaboration of the Rotary Voices podcast and Supper with Sylvia. They are two award-winning restaurateurs with a mission of giving back, whether it be in the city or suburbs of Chicago, feeding refugees in war-torn countries, or raising money for areas impacted by natural disasters. Chicagoans Tony Priolo and Sarah Stegner are critically acclaimed chefs, but first, they are humanitarians. Chef Priolo's restaurant Piccolo Sogno has been serving up some of the city's best Italian cuisine for more than 16 years. Celebrating 20 years in Northbrook, Sarah Stegner's Prairie Grass Cafe has taken the farm-to-table concept to new heights. But they joined forces to create a new organization made up of like-minded chefs who wanted to help feed the hungry and homeless and connect with Jose Andreas' World Central Kitchen. It all started when Tony decided he had to do something after watching the war in Ukraine unfold on TV. And now, their organization has raised more than $1 million for humanitarian relief. 3 years after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, it is my honor to be speaking with the co-founders of the philanthropic organization Chicago Chefs Cook, Tony Priolo and Sarah Stegner. Tony Priolo, Sarah Stegner, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having us,
Tony.
Thank you. Honored.
So I wanted to start with how Chicago Chefs began. And Tony, it started with you seeing what was going on in Ukraine. Take us back to that day. I think you were working out that morning.
Yeah, it was pretty early in the morning, like 5:30 in the morning. I was up watching TV while I was working out. My adrenaline is going, and I'm watching this war begin live. And by the end of the workout, I said to myself, I'm like, I need to do something. You know, the devastation. It's not like a TV show. You're watching it happen live.
Real-time war.
Yeah, real-time war, bombing and stuff. I'm like, I need to reach out to my community. I sent an email to like 20 or 30 chefs. And then probably like 6:30, 6:45 in the morning. Giuseppe Tentori texted me right back. I said, hey guys, considering what's going on, we need to do something. I'll do all the legwork. Who can be a part of it? Giuseppe Tentori texted me within seconds, said, I'm in, whatever you need. By the time I went to work, I had like 30 emails saying, count us in, count us in. Sarah's like, hey, I want to be a part of this. I want to help. So it was like a train that never stopped.
And Sarah, you didn't even think twice about it. You immediately got involved.
Yeah, you know, that emotion that Tony had, we have to put action behind those feelings. I mean, I think that's at the heart of what chefs want to do when we try and make a difference in the world. And that call to action that Tony actually sent the email out and empowered the community to step up. I mean, that was beautiful. And yes, of course, I wanted to be a part of it. And no hesitation.
And where did you go from there?
By the end of the day, I just called all my friends, including you, friends in the media, friends politically, friends in the alcohol world, friends in the catering world, because I was envisioning having an event, right? And everybody was supportive of it. And I wanted to go big because I wanted to raise a lot of money. And at that point, we had no idea what we were going to do with the money.
And Illinois Restaurant Association, you contacted them.
That's the political end. And we had no idea where the money was going to go, too. So Sarah brought in some friends that worked at the Green City Market, and they're like, hey, we'll help you. We'll take all the money, and then we'll send the money out to where you want to go.
Like the administrative side of it and kind of helping us keep track.
Yeah.
So Ida Davidman and Darren Guest stepped up and have helped us.
So that brings us to the very first event. Let's talk about that because I was there and what an event that was. It was an amazing night in that gorgeous ballroom, right?
Yeah, and I pushed for that. I called the Illinois Restaurant Association, who was Sam and Toya and Mary Kay Bonamo, who run that event. I'm like, I want the best location to showcase this because we wanted to raise the most money. But that's what we do. We cook, right? So they put me in contact with some other people who are commissioners. I'm like, I want Navy Pier. Because Navy Pier is iconic for Chicago, I figured, and it's like $300,000. I personally signed the contract that I was responsible for all that money.
Kind of scary.
Yeah, kind of scary.
Yeah, really scary. Yeah.
And the dates that they offered, it was 2 years to the day when we were shut down for COVID. So here was a big event going on, put up by chefs to help out people they have no idea, have never met. And I have no ties to Ukraine either. And we're going to do a party to raise money on the day that we were closed. It was just all in line.
And you could feel the empowerment from the chefs. Like, they rallied and they understood that this was that moment in time to step out from all that we have overcome during COVID and the pandemic.
So for people who have not been, Navy Pier Grand Ballroom is iconic. It is absolutely stunning. It's huge. And to have that event there was spectacular. But what really blows my mind was how quickly you threw this together.
2 weeks, yeah.
2 weeks
2 weeks
time.
in a day, I think it was to the day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I called Danny Wirtz. He's with Breakthrough Beverage and the Blackhawks. I'm like, hey, Danny, I want to do this event. And he's like, we got all the booze. You got it donated. No problem. We got the tables donated. We got lights donated, sound system, everything. And I still didn't get a number from Navy Pier. So till the end. And Navy Pier was able, because it's a union, they were able to discount it down to almost like $50,000. We were surprised that they got it down that low. So more money was allowed to go to the charity. So we had 70 chefs coming together within 2 weeks. And we have an unsung hero, Zach Steen from Rick Bayless's group. He's the director of culinary operations. He's the one that organized all the chefs, like what they're doing, what equipment they need. He was on the phone like crazy.
I called over there and I was like, can you help us with this? And I talked to Rick. I said, do you have somebody in your organization? And we connected with Zach, and he didn't know what he was signing up for.
Yeah.
And then just went for it. And I didn't know till it was completely over what he actually does there. And just being a chef.
Yeah.
But he handled the organizational part of it, all the menus, and it was intense.
So you guys just got to do the job of doing what you do best, which is feeding people.
Yeah, we more than that. Within that 2 weeks, my wife and I had a 10-year anniversary. We had prior plans to go to Miami to celebrate on our anniversary. And I spent my whole day in Miami on the phone, texting. I ruined our anniversary for my poor wife. Thank God she was very, very patient. I mean, it was so many sacrifices to get there because, like calling the media, Lynn Bramer, God rest his soul, because we asked him to be the MC, said, Tony, I can't do it, but I'm going to push this to hell for you. Mm-hmm. So he got Odyssey Radio. We had commercials on every station constantly. I called you. Yeah. You put us on the TV. Mm-hmm. Your outreach was amazing. The support we got from everybody in Chicago and the Chicagoland area was huge.
And that was just the beginning, because shortly after that, you did one for Ethiopia relief. Relief. Then you did Puerto Rico, and then the list goes on. But in between, Tony, you ended up going to Poland, right?
Yep. So during that whole time we were organizing it, I reached out to the Illinois Restaurant Association, and I said, hey, is there any way that you can help us get there to go cook and help? We'll pay for it all. And they tried the political connections, and because it was war, they weren't able to. So I kind of just pushed it aside. And then during it, Chef Paul Kahan from One Off Hospitality said, Tony, we need to go there. So I reached out to World Central Kitchen, and they said, yeah. So I reached out to Giuseppe, Paul, and myself, and another gentleman, Eric Kleinberg, who was in the area of Ukraine. We all went down there.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Poland. I wanted to, we didn't really talk about that experience, what that was like for you. If you could paint a picture for us of your short time there, what did you see?
I mean, it was definitely eye-opening. I was talking about it to one of my friends, and he's like, hey, I want to buy you guys plane tickets. I'm like, what? I mean, I'm okay. I don't need to take it. He's like, no, it's better than, people putting up yellow and blue light bulbs in their entryway. I'm like, okay, I'll ask the other chefs.
He said, I'll pay for you guys to go.
Yes. So I called Paul and I called Giuseppe, and they're like, yeah, why not? So we get to the airport, and he flew us first class to Poland, there and back. I took care of the hotel and the rental car. I mean, we all paid our own way.
Right.
But then you don't really know what you're going to get into. Never even thought of it. We flew into Warsaw, then Krakow, and then drove 3.5 hours nonstop. We get there, and we were picking up our friend Eric at a train station in Przemyśl. This is the town. It's literally bordering. It's right across the street is Ukraine. We look in the train station, a small train station. It's mothers and children with shopping carts, plastic bags, grocery bags, or maybe one set of luggage waiting. And I got out of the car, I just started crying. And that's what we saw every day. And it was not, there was no class anymore.
And
Everybody was on the same playing field.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
like the chefs in Chicago were aware that Tony and Giuseppe and Paul had gone. And of course, we all wanted to go. But we were sitting at the edge of our seats kind of waiting to hear what had happened. Because remember, they're going into a war zone. And it was at the beginning, and we didn't know what was going to happen. They were brave, and they were representing us. Like, we felt empowered that they were going. And then he sent those pictures of these women and children in the train station. And like, you could feel the hush in the whole community.
Wow.
Like, it hit home.
And that next night, and our time was all messed up, I secured a hotel room in that area. We were just like all emotional, jaws dropping, because we had zero idea. We got to the kitchen 2 hours early. We had to go through a bunch of tests, health tests. And so we had to do these tests to be allowed to cook. We went in that kitchen, and I don't think any of us stopped. Constant flow. They'd have breaks. We didn't know anybody. We just busted our ass, covered in sweat. I remember at the end of that day, we were probably there for 14, 15 hours. Stinky, covered in sweat. We had one apron, no chef clothes, regular clothes. We were all washing our aprons in that little tiny, like, utility tub, drying them, trying to fall asleep, but you're so fired up. And I'm like, oh, did we even eat today? We forgot to eat, But in that kitchen, the camaraderie in that kitchen, Chef Mark Murphy, who's on Food Network, he was running the show down there. He went down there for 7 weeks on his own time, his own dime, just busting his ass. And he's pretty famous. He's a hardworking, he's an amazing chef. We're cooking for 30,000 people a day.
Wow.
Just 5 guys.
What's a memory of a particular person that you will never forget?
So, like, during that time, in the kitchen, you don't see what's going on. So, like, hey, we want to go to the front lines. So we'd finish all what we would do for the day and then grab a quick bite to eat. Then we'd go to the front line and serve the food. That's where it was just heartbreaking.
What did you see?
I remember one in particular, an older couple, probably 70s, very well dressed, covered in soot. And they had just come across the border. We were the first people that they would see. And I don't speak Ukrainian or Russian. I have a little bit of Polish from Polish friends, trying to give them water. And they were like in shock. They didn't know what to expect. So I remember the wife looks to the husband and started like tearing up. So I started tearing up, and she turns to him, says something, and then she turns to me and bows and says, "Thank you," like a broken English. And that was like a defining moment right there. They had no idea what to expect. They would probably be willing to buy things, and we're giving it to them with hot food, hot soup. It was just, that will always be in my mind. That, and then there's another image right at the border. I remember I saw this probably 80-year-old man in a full-on army outfit. And I went and like, "Hey, I just wanted to shake your hand." We don't talk to each other. Big smile on his hand. He said, "American?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yuki?" He like pointing at himself. He was saying, "Me, Putin, dead." Like he was going to go kill Putin. He was a Ukrainian guy. He came to the border I found out through translation, to get water to bring back to the front line.
He was going to go back.
Yeah, so we fed him, of course. But.
Well, I'm sure that was a life-changing trip.
Yeah. And backtrack really quick. All the chefs, we all voted on where the money would go, and it was almost unanimously that it was going to go to World Central Kitchen, because the day the war started, they were already on a plane on the way there.
And you work with World Central Kitchen regularly. You have an official title with them, right?
Yeah, we're part of the Chef's Corps, but we have continued to send money to them on numerous occasions.
Yeah. So what is the World Central Kitchen Chef's Corps?
So if there's an emergency anywhere, in any city, any country, so if there was something going on here when there was that shooting in the suburbs here, they called me, said, "Tony, do you know any chefs that can help feed the people that were involved?" Say if there was a disaster here, they would call Sarah and whoever else is in the Chef Corps.
Yeah, it was actually Soul and Smoke that went up and helped in Highland
Park.
We
We called the great people
Highland
there.
Park 4th of July parade. She didn't tell me about that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, they were looking for somebody to do response right away. So all the families, people are traumatized. And so Smoke said their trucks were packed for an event. They rerouted and went and did it up there.
We called Heather and they went
and
down there
DeAndre Carter.
So to let people know what you guys are referring to, here in Chicago, there's a suburb called Highland Park. There was a horrible shooting on the 4th of July as families went out to watch a parade and just enjoy themselves. And someone came and opened fire. And it was a tragedy that is still hurting so many people. Lives were lost. And I had no idea that you guys were there to help. Wow.
There was a apartment fire in Park Ridge, close by my home. And World Central Kitchen called me and said, "Hey, Tony, can you go see if they need our assistance?" So I went there and scouted the area. Same thing. And at that point, everything was taken care of. So
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because I think the mission of Rotary International is a humanitarian mission. I mean, we know they're involved with polio, they're involved with feeding people. So I feel like this is the perfect marriage. And the Chicago Chefs Cook Organization, you're giving back to World Central Kitchen. You're giving back to neighborhoods I didn't even know about. This is something the first time I've heard. What a beautiful thing. It touches my heart even more. So to go back to your first fundraiser that started it all, how was it decided that World Central Kitchen was the best place? Because you know that they are there when they're needed immediately.
Well, it was a chef-driven idea where you're going to go feed people where people needed food. So we all voted on, we gave them a list of things, and pretty much everybody said World Central
Everybody
Kitchen.
said it. It was unanimous.
Yeah.
So now I kind of want to move on. I've talked to both of you about this on different occasions. And I think food is something that brings us all together. It's something that is nurturing. So I truly believe that that is at the core of the being of an excellent chef. Like, I think the core of both of you is to give back. I think of you as humanitarians. And I'm curious, and we'll start with you, Sarah, how that got you to the direction that you are, because you are someone who helped to start the Green City Market in Chicago, which is a very large, well-known farmers market. Your restaurant, Prairie Grass Cafe in Northbrook, I think you're celebrating 20 years,
20
by the way.
years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And you have brought the farm-to-table concept to a whole new meaning. When I think about your food, Sarah, I think about the yummy, delicious vegetables that you cook. And I know you're really big on sustainability. Why is all this so important to you, and where did this come from?
I think as chefs, we're in leadership positions. And that idea of what we do, we cook and we give back to people. You know, I feel like that's like at the core of every single chef. And having that access to local sustainable food to me is so important. It's the answer to so many social issues we have in this country. It provides access and it helps with the environment. It provides jobs. It changes the way people view food and community. I've been a spokesperson for 20 years on this subject since I became a chef. And I feel really strongly that it's part of the fabric of our culture. And it's in Chicago, in many of these chef-driven restaurants that have championed this. And I think all of this kind of comes together to that moment around the table where people can be nurtured, be taken care of, and have that experience of connecting. And not everybody has that privilege, and particularly people in these humanitarian crises, they lose the basic essential of what it means to have humanity. And that's food, it's our nourishment. And that's what we want to give to people. And when a chef in Chicago says, "This is important to me, I need to do this," but not to have the structure behind that, us providing that structure and helping and amplifying their voice. And like Tony said, it's not about us. It's about the impact that we're making, not only in the humanitarian side, but behind the scenes, what that means when you take a group of people that are empowered and what they can do and accomplish in positions of leadership.
I think, too, when I think of the Green City Market, I mean, you are one-on-one with these farmers. This was something that started small and just grew probably beyond your wildest expectation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible how much traffic goes through that Green City Market. And it's people that are coming now just to see, to understand what has happened and to be part of that movement. I think that it's a tribute to all of Chicago chefs that Green City Market is successful as it is. It's years and years of consistent purchasing and connecting and knowing who those farmers are. From iconic chefs like Jason Hamill and Rick Bayless, having those relationships that feed the economy, the local economy of agriculture. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And then Tony, 2008 was when Piccolo Sogno opened, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Can you believe that? And so you were at some other restaurants in Chicago, including Coco Pazzo. I know you were very involved in part ownership with them.
Yep.
You opened your own place, I know, because you wanted to have your own place, as most chefs would. But what I love about your restaurant and your food is it's very simple. It's absolutely delicious. And ingredients like Sarah and any good chef are really important to you. But as an Italian restaurant, you really source a lot of your products from Italy as well.
Yep. Oh yeah. And locally. So I remember when we opened in 2008, even prior to that, when I was at Coco Pazzo, the person that started the Green City Market, Abby Mandel, was a good friend. She was there all the time. And I got to know a lot of farmers. And I befriended a farming, Green Acres Farm, third generation farm. And she allowed me to pick out vegetables that I could grow for my restaurant, which was amazing. And that was unheard of in 1997. So we were growing things like Treviso Radicchio, Spigarello, and she was a predominantly Asian farmer, but she was growing stuff for me at Coco Pazzo, and it sparked, like she was saying. I'm empowering her third generation family. I'm helping them. They're helping me. We never pushed it in the press or anything. We just did it, and it was fun. It stems, like for me, cooking Italian stems from my grandmother growing up in an Italian household. That's where it all comes from. I used to help her cook. We lived on the northwest side, kind of poor family. Take 2 or 3 buses to go get an ingredient and then come back.
Ingredients were important.
Very important, very important. So that was like embedded in me as a child, and I always wanted to cook.
One thing Tony said about his relationship with Beth Eccles from Green Acres.
Yeah.
This is what community is built on. During COVID, we held these conversations. They were called organic conversations. And actually, it was Darren Guest that did it with me. And we talked with chefs and farmers on Zoom. And we interviewed 25 chefs about, were you still buying local during COVID? And every time the answer boils down to, if I have the personal relationship with the chef. And that's what Green City strived to do, is provide that connectivity for all of us to the land and to the people that are working it. And when Tony did the call to action, he has so many relationships with chefs in Chicago. This community came together and then extended. I consider part of Chicago Chefs Cook community is the media. It's the people that are the touch points to the public, have rallied and stepped up. So when we start to build community, it isn't just the chefs, it's the entire operation that makes it so valuable to connect with people.
Takes a village, right?
It does, exactly.
It's a large village,
Yeah. Tony, going back to, because I know you know this, and Tony has olive oil and balsamic vinegar that he has brought in from Italy.
We brought it in from Italy
Yes.
because we wanted it at the table. And then, funny enough, when we first opened, we had this 15-year-age balsamic vinegar on the tables. People were stealing them.
I understand that. I might have been one of them.
We were like, okay, we're going to start selling this. So if somebody would steal, we'd put it on their check. And then I have a great relationship with Mariano's, the CEO and the prior family that owned it. They were close friends, and they're like, we want this in the store. So we started selling it to them. It's more for marketing. We don't really make much money on it. Now we have pasta and sauce coming out too.
Which is great. I have to tell you guys, I think your balsamic is some of the best I've ever had. I call it liquid gold.
Yes. Yeah.
And whenever I go to Piccolo Sogno, I always tell people, if you don't eat bread, this is the one time I want you to have the focaccia with the balsamic and the olive oil. That focaccia is crazy good.
Crazy good.
And it's aged 15 years, and it cost us exactly what we charge.
It's
we don't make
delicious.
Any money.
It is so good. Truly
Thanks for
liquid gold.
noticing, yeah.
So I am curious, as you look to the future, because there's a whole new set of young chefs who are coming up throughout Chicago and outside. And I'm curious if there's anyone in particular that you see that is going to be doing what you guys do, which is not only make amazing food and have great restaurants, but really giving back to the community like you guys do, like Rotary does, that humanitarian instinct. Anybody stand out to you in our area?
Well, Soul and Smoke, they are established chefs through food trucks and commissaries that they're doing barbecue. And DeAndre Carter has a fine dining background. Like, this guy knows what he's doing. This is amazing. His food is amazing. But what they have done is every single time people ask for help, they say yes. every single time. There is no limit.
They've been doing it, and they just continue to do it without media. We don't,
Right.
you know,
right.
like I didn't do any of this to get any kind of media attention.
Right.
And I will say neither of you do anything to get media attention. It's just I often hear that you're up to something, and then I reach out to you and I say, let's promote this because I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything you do. But I
think
also,
you even interviewed me when I was, your team interviewed me when I was in Poland too.
Yes.
Yes.
And both of you have created some life-changing moments for other people, which is why I was happy to do this with you for Rotary. Because as I said, it's all about giving back. It's all about being humanitarians. That's a great story to end with because I think it really represents what both of you are all about. So Tony Priolo, Piccolo Sonia Restaurant in Chicago, Sarah Stegner, Prairie Grass Cafe, thank you for joining us with Rotary Voices and the special collaboration with Supper with Sylvia. I appreciate you both.
Thank
Love you,
you. We
Sylvia.
appreciate you too.
Thank you.
Big heart to you.